Welcome to Time Turner Thursdays, a special feature of Hogwarts Radio that revisits some of our more popular episodes over the past 10 years. Episode 153 was released on February 6, 2014, and discusses the big shakeup involving the future of Ron and Hermione. Listeners may remember the Sunday Times reporting J.K. Rowling had stated Harry and Hermione would have made a better couples match. This six-person panel is fired up over the news and shares a wide variety of opinions. Will all the Ron and Hermione stuff work out? We break it down on this special episode of Hogwarts Radio. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 153 of Hogwarts Radio. I'm Terrence Pinkston.
I'm Grayson Smith.
I'm Eric Skull.
I'm Mary Smith.
I'm Marissa Reynolds.
And I'm Adam Bromberg.
And with us today, we have special guest Keith Hawk from MuggleNet. Hey, Keith.
Hey, what's up, guys? How's everybody doing?
I'm feeling better as some of these fans are. You know, all was not well, apparently.
Yes, once you get the lawyers involved and the marriage counselors and everything else that apparently lies in the future of our secondary heroes.
The Sunday Times reported that J.K. Rowling has changed her mind about Ron and Hermione, stating that Harry and Hermione would have made a better match. All we can say is just hang on, everybody. Don't quite, go casting Avada Kedavra curses everywhere yet, because there's a lot of flaws in this plan.
What did you just say?
I said that there's a report.
What did J.K. Rowling say?
Right, that there's a report that J.K. Rowling has changed her mind about Ron and Hermione.
Where does it say that in the article?
Actually, the printed article suggests that only Emma believes Harry and Hermione would have made a better match. So there was a printed article in this month's edition of Wonderland magazine, which was edited by Emma herself, and it's going to be released on Thursday. So we need to be careful.
The only part that I saw that Emma said is that she said, and I'll quote this, she said, "I think there are fans out there who know that too, and who wonder whether Ron would have really been able to make her happy." I don't think it says anything about Emma saying they weren't made right for each other.
People run away with, with
that's the problem with reporters today.
Exactly.
Well, no, J.K. Rowling does say that putting Ron and Hermione together was less for literary reasons and more for wish fulfillment, sticking to the plan.
Exactly.
But that's what's said. And still that alone is kind of a problem, though, too. Because you're thinking she really doesn't think that they necessarily should have gone together. She was it was all about sticking to her guns. She thought they were going to be together at the end. And when she decided not to kill Ron, she's like, why not?
What authority does she have over these books anyway?
I know, right?
Anyway, really, right?
But what is the literary value, though, of having Harry end up with Hermione? Is it just the hero ending up with the heroine, and it's just a cliched?
That was my question. She's like,
yeah, it doesn't really add anything to me.
What is the literary value of writing a book if you're just going to talk about how you should have done it differently afterward?
Yeah.
I mean, she is the author. She has authority over the literary value of a book because
I'm sorry, no, absolutely not.
Yeah, definitely,
You're
but she
wrong about
wrote it.
that.
It's done.
Yeah.
She did write it, and
that's correct. She wrote the book. It's authoritative. It's in what you have is the canon of the 7 books, period, in the story. What she says after that, I'm sure people are going to write doctorates on, by what she says, because what she says is masterful. Her backstory is intriguing. It's all wonderful. Yeah. But it is not canon. No matter what she says, anything she says that is not implicitly put into those books, we have to rule out.
What is Keith, I think you need to relax a little, buddy.
Oh, I'm so fired up about this whole thing.
Well, me too. Me too, though. I'm sure we all are in our own way. I think, really, though, for me on this topic of going back and editing what she's already done, a lot of fans didn't ask for the epilogue. Okay, we didn't like it. We didn't want it in the book. It's stupid. It closes canon. It prevents a variety of mashups, even Harry Draco, from happening because they're all married and they all have kids together, and that's definitive. We didn't ask for the epilogue. J.K. Rowling gave us the epilogue. And to now say that even that's not really right or how it should have ended or maybe she was wrong or anything like this, casting doubt, it's just, no, stop, Joe, stop. You definitively concluded who ends up together.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but why if it doesn't matter at all, if it's not in the book, it's not going to be canon. It doesn't really matter then. It's just something. It's just an interesting side note. It's not like it matters at all. So why does it warrant any kind of emotion?
This isn't interesting at all. It's an outrage.
Why is it an outrage though?
But why would she want to take away from what we've come to know from reading the books, from reading so many years and relationships developing? Why would she want to take that down?
Well,
I
Mary,
mean, you didn't hear Shakespeare going, I shouldn't have killed both Romeo and Juliet. I should have kept one of them alive, but I killed both of them just because it was fulfilling my inner need for whatever. Insert.
Well, the fact we don't even know the day that Shakespeare died probably indicates why that's true. But I mean,
yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm really glad that JKR is still around, but she needs to stop talking about this stuff.
Mary, to answer your question about why she would do something like this is because there really are, as we found out the last day, there really are like thousands of people who always thought that Harry really should end up with Hermione, and they are
wrong.
They are now validated. Like they've been waiting 8 years or 7 years since the last book came out, and all of a sudden, every single one of them took to Twittering and Facebooking and sharing these links and talking about how they were right all along and about how Joe gave up and gave in and decided not to make their ship come true.
Nope, they're wrong.
Well, they're validated, but in the only way they could possibly ever could be, because again, it's obviously not going to be in the books. There's nothing else that can be said except maybe they should have ended up together. That's the only way they can be validated. So I understand why they're excited, but I don't understand why people are outraged about it because.
Well, honestly,
it doesn't make any sense to me.
The great debate and the great shipping debate, I mean, that's been going on for years, ever since before Book 7 came out. Since the series has started, people have been guessing who's going out with who and different things like that. And the book has been out for 7 years already. The final book has been out for 7 years, and canon was closed. Canon was closed 7 years ago on this. Now that she's going in and changing it, raises the question.
But she's not changing. That's my point. She's not changing it. That's what I'm saying. Why is everyone upset? She's not changing anything
because it's definitive. I mean, what Joe says it goes. I mean, she said Dumbledore was no. She said Dumbledore was gay. Back in.
It doesn't matter though. It doesn't matter.
She's making everybody wonder what could have been. Now everybody's going to go back and reread the series and think about if this was tweaked here, if that was tweaked there, and then just.
But guys, I'm firmly of the opinion that once a piece of art is out, it belongs to the people after that. At that point, it doesn't belong to the artist anymore. It belongs to the people who have interpreted it and grown up with it and lived it vicariously.
Agreed, but there are just as many people out there who want Harry and Hermione together as there are who want Harry and Hermione.
And they can take this as a banner. We won this one, but they still didn't win in the actual book. Is the thing, so it doesn't matter.
At this point in time, J.K. Rowling has just become the most famous fanfic writer ever. Okay? Because that's all this is it's fanfic.
Yeah,
it's a big publicity stunt.
Well, here's the problem: is the Sunday Times heavily implies that Rowling said that Harry would have wound up better with Hermione.
Their title was even wrong.
Their title that says that. Yeah, and that's the Sunday Times. Furthermore, other people have taken the Sunday Times and made it even worse. I don't think anybody could have predicted how many people out of the woodwork this would bring to the web to talk about something like this.
Well, honestly, I mean, the headlines all over the internet are misleading. I would say the only one that's really true is the one on MuggleNet right now. But
well, it stems from the Sunday Times, who said those things about her, preferring Harry better, but the quotes don't support it. And here's the problem.
Go ahead, Eric, I'm sorry.
The Wonderland article or whatever, the Wonderland magazine, the publication is not out until Thursday. Right. So they claim to have had a sneak peek. They claim that, Rowling said Harry would have been a better suitor, but that's not quoted. What's quoted is the two quotes that we do have, which is that perhaps pairing Hermione with Ron was more wish fulfillment than, good reasons.
Right.
So it's quite different. The Sunday Times is to blame here completely for not, for just hinting that she does in fact say this, when in fact the truth is probably a lot less juicy.
Yeah, the Sunday Times headline is J.K. admits Harry should have wed Hermione. Okay, that's nowhere in the article does it say that.
I think that I really saw, and it's not something that can be helped, because the problem is we don't even have access to this stuff. The Sunday Times, we had to get our British correspondent to send us a copy of that. Wonderland, I'm going to be on that Thursday trying to get that, because I want to put this to rest. In the meantime, we have had 5 days, it's going to be, to just marinate on this idea that J.K. Rowling thinks that it was wrong of her, and that somehow Hermione should be with Harry instead. It's ridiculous that we have nothing but time to sit around and be like, oh no, this is our world as we know it is ending, or in some cases as we are on here, doesn't change anything, but we still have all those people who are so excited about it and we just want it to go away.
Well,
Eric,
let
me ask you this. In real life, don't we always ask what ifs with different situations?
Of course, we're always going to wonder what if.
So what's wrong with J.K. Rowling throwing this out for the book?
Well, because she's the author.
Because she's not supposed to do what if with her own book. She wrote it. She's writing a fantasy.
But these characters are real to her, and they're real to a lot of her fans.
That doesn't make what she says canon. And that's
no,
the point.
It's not canon, but I still don't understand the outrage that comes from it, because again, it's not canon. So why does it?
Well, we like to think that J.K. Rowling is infallible.
Right.
Here's the problem. People think that whatever J.K. Rowling says, writes, or does is canon, and people do not understand where canon comes from. Well, canon is authoritative. Period. We have two different types of canon in this series. We have film canon, the 8 films that are made with multiple authors. Those are already made. They're in their cases that we've seen them all. That is canon. We can discuss it all we want. It's film canon. The original canon that she wrote is the 7-book series. What she wrote in those books is it. There is nothing that she can add later on. It's all interesting to hear what she has to say on Pottermore.
I disagree, Keith. I think Keith, you're on a completely different argument than the rest of us. I don't think any of us are saying that it's canon. I think but furthermore, I disagree. I think everything J.K. Rowling says is canon until it contradicts something she already said that was canon. I believe everything on Pottermore about backstories of Gilderoy Lockhart and any number of people that have been revealed.
Okay, let me ask you a question then.
Yeah.
When she comes out and she says, hey, the house elves magic is based on secular humanism, okay? And the way magic works is it's because it's Scientology, and I'm marrying Tom Cruise. Are we going to believe her? No, we're not, okay?
I would say as long as it doesn't contradict.
It doesn't matter what she says. If she wanted it to be part of the canon, she would have written it. There's no hints. You can't assume.
Well, some things she did write, but she had to cut because it was a little too much. But she actually did write them, intending them to be part of the story.
Yeah, but the thing was, they aren't part of the story. So, I mean...
Well, they kind of are, because she used them to write the story.
That's true. Words that were simply edited for being too long, or maybe it was a slower part of the book than usual. They really could have used more editing in book 5.
Yeah, but I think that this is
the best.
I think that book 5 is the best. Who said that, Grayson?
Yeah,
you're rock, man. Book 5.
Yeah, thank you.
This is another argument for another day.
I know, it just bugs me. All the little pot shots at book 5.
Well, think about all that crap that's canon, because it's in the book. It's in the 5th book, but it won't matter ever, because it doesn't matter to the series. It's just junk. It's all there. Whereas something
look at it this way. Look at Wandwoods, for instance. We mentioned Wandwoods, with Holly.
That's canon.
Sure, what's printed in the book, but not the 30 Wandwoods that are on Pottermore.
The research that was done.
So that's great, but you have to realize that some authors can sensationalize their stuff. They can say, hey, you know what? This was really a good part of the book. I'm going to make this really dramatic and come up with all these Wandwoods and different stuff.
Well, most of them she already had. There was just no place for them in the books. You got to start thinking about new media, Keith, as being part of canon, and think of all of Pottermore as an 8th book.
Absolutely
that was never published.
Never will be.
It's being published. Because it's published online.
Do you really think for 1 second that every word that she writes on those new moments in Pottermore was written 100% by her? That it was never edited by somebody else?
If it was approved by her,
even the Harry Potter books are edited by somebody else. That's not what I said.
It was edited by somebody else. That's correct.
All
it isn't 100% her. It's just like, Hamlet.
No,
the Hamlet that we have today is Shakespeare, right?
Right.
No, it's not. It's Shakespeare. It's some of the actors that have participated in Shakespeare plays along the way.
Keith, the Harry Potter books are edited, just like Marissa just said.
Absolutely.
So Pottermore is just as much canon as anything else, as any of the Harry Potter books. But we're just lucky that she didn't write this on Pottermore. That's my argument here. Like, this was in an interview, and maybe here's the other part of it, is because it was Emma Watson that she's telling this to, and they're able to have this girl moment where they connect over Hermione's character and about how whether or not she would have been made happy. That's the whole like great thing about this article. These two women are connecting over the character that she wrote and the character that she played. That I think has like this isn't J.K. Rowling just blabbing to some tabloid, who over sensationalizes it. This is J.K. Rowling and Emma Watson. They have history. She's one of the what did you call them? The seven, one of the seven, and that's why it's more important to people, is because it's almost like a private conversation that has come out, and that allows people to really feel that J.K. Rowling really believes that things should have been different.
I'd like to bring up another point that I've just been thinking about. Just about the whole Ron and Hermione or Harry and Hermione thing. Why does it really have to be either or? I mean, honestly, to me, I feel like Hermione doesn't belong with either of them.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, Harry and Hermione, I mean, that really never made any sense to me. They're just too platonic. They're practically like brother and sister. And Ron and Hermione are completely opposites. And yeah, opposites do attract, but opposites are not what long-term relationships are made of.
Well, J.K. Rowling even said that they would have problems. They would have been in marriage counseling for much of their marriage. And I can believe that. That makes sense.
I can't believe that.
At least they're going to marriage counseling and not just straight up getting a divorce, So there's the positive spin there. Yes, absolutely.
They have to have wizard marriage counselors out there.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Did they use magic in their therapy?
I was gonna. Well, they don't.
It's
like they don't wear pants. So why would they even
what?
Why would they have marriage counselors? Because the men don't even know to wear pants. It's just it falls down under close scrutiny. The idea that there would be because the wizard say they go to a marriage counselor, Hermione and Ron, it has to be a wizard marriage counselor because the things that come up are gonna have to do with the wizard kind. And that just speaks to a much more organized social government existence that just doesn't exist for wizards in canon. So I cry foul there.
It is kind of funny to imagine because you just kind of see a couple sitting there arguing like all you had to do was flick your wand and the dishes would have been done.
I was thinking they would do like they touch wands together and hold hands at the same time, and it's like trying to get that positive energy flowing. It's like a new age marriage counselor.
So Keith, going back to what you were saying, Keith and Eric, I wanted to ask a question. Keith, would you consider Tales of Beetle the Bard canon or Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them? And
the only part of Tales of Beetle the Bard that I find as being canon is the title of the ones that Ron says and the actual tale of the three brothers, because that's in the books. The Quidditch for the Ages, Fantastic Beasts, the mention of them being in existence, sure, that exists, but the content of what's in those books cannot be considered as part of the canon.
So,
but they're written and they're definitive, so why wouldn't it be part of the canon?
Because it's not when she set out to do this thing, it was a 7-story thing. What came afterwards has no bearing on it.
Well, the Fantastic Beasts book didn't come necessarily afterwards. It was just extra.
But what
as part of and it's mentioned in there, there's parts of it that are mentioned in the series, and that's all well and good. She just wanted to make it as unique as possible and give us more as a fan. But that doesn't count as part of the fanfic, and or as part of the canon. You can, in some cases, say, okay, let's extend it. But when you start extending it, where does the boundary end? Do we end it there? What about the Daily Prophets that she wrote? What about the EA cards that she wrote for the games? Well, I mean, she wrote all this stuff for the fans, but there has to be a definitive line as to where canon ends. For me, it's the 7-book series.
I think that really Gina would agree with you, Keith, and Gina, who can't be on the show tonight, did send a small quote that I want to read about her feelings on all of this, guys. So I just want to read this, and surprisingly, Keith, I think she agrees with you. She said, "I don't believe in authors changing their texts or their canon post-publication. We've dealt with this with George Lucas and his work, and it never seems to please fans. Hindsight is always 20/20, but I feel that once it's a published work, the author needs to let go and let the fans have it. Han shot first, and Hermione and Ron are married. These will always be the facts in my life."
Right. But the difference,
exactly
I agree
right.
with her, but the difference between that Star Wars and this is that he actually changed it. She's not actually changing it. She's just giving an off the cuff remark about the compatibility of Hermione and Ron.
That's
so
fair.
it's not as if she's changing the art itself.
Yeah, the thing you guys have to remember is that this is not the first time an author has done something to mess with the canon. It happens all the time. Faulkner. I mean, Faulkner is freaking nuts. Most lunatic freaking author ever.
Yeah,
And
and
he's drunk, so that's
yeah. I mean, here, look at J.R. Tolkien.
Well, I think the part of it where Grayson, going back to your comment real quick, just
Right.
the part of it that makes it that she's changing canon or trying to change canon is because I guess the assumption was that Hermione and Ron were perfectly happy, always perfect.
No, I don't. I never got that. I was never under that impression. I mean, because it's Ron
They were
would
never
have,
happy together in school.
right, exactly. And
They gradually came to an understanding.
I mean, do you think that?
There's only so much that the 12 fail-safe ways to charm a witch will work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Look, here's a question for you guys I want to throw out there while we're discussing canon and boundaries. Firstly, why should canon have a boundary? JKR is the creator of this world, and she should be able to come in and change and do whatever she wants to without question.
Well, I don't agree with change, but I agree with add.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with add and comment on, but I don't agree with change.
And see, I don't, because as soon as you start, where do you stop? Where do you draw the line?
But
that
there
was
should
my
be-
point the whole time.
There should be
I think
no
it's
boundary.
pretty much
though.
everything she says except for like an actual opinion, which what we're talking about right now is her opinion saying, well, I think it would have done this, but she still married them off in the book. She still gave them children in the book. So she wrote that, and like all the Pottermore stuff and stuff she wrote. But then there's another little section on Pottermore that says what J.K. Rowling thinks, and that's just her opinion about what she has written.
Adam, you've been awfully quiet. What do you think a canon should have a boundary? Settle this. You're kind of like the middleman right now. Should there
I
be?
think I'm the middleman because I don't really feel an intense passion in either direction.
Well,
What are you
that's
doing
good.
on this show?
I'm
He's
playing
good.
the middleman, Eric. I thought we just established
He's
that.
the
No,
neutral
there's a
party.
value. There's a political value and
Yeah.
a strategic value in you.
I do honestly think both sides have great points, but I do agree a lot with what Eric said, where the author is the author. They have like the definitive say in what happens.
Absolutely.
I know that's going to piss off Keith. I'm sorry,
Well,
Keith.
just the
but-
Harry
No, it's not
Potter
gonna
books.
piss me off. I understand what Eric's
No, the
saying.
Harry Potter books could never be about just wandwoods because Voldemort didn't hide his soul in a bunch of wands.
Right.
And so I feel like as long as it doesn't contradict previous canon, she should be allowed to expand the world in other form. And it doesn't always have to be a book because it used to be difficult to get a book published.
Well,
Now
here's-
she's J.K. Rowling.
Eric, here's another thing too: is canon in another sense. Canons are meant to go boom. Obviously, not same canon, but in
That's
this case,
C-A-N-N-O-N instead of
yes,
C-A-N-O-N.
but I was just making a pun there. I was trying to be punny in it.
It was very punny. I laughed on the inside.
Yeah, I thought it was punny.
Thanks. But either way, what I was saying is that there's nothing wrong with something in canon getting shaken up every once in a while.
There's nothing
Yeah, it
wrong with
just
the
continues
discussions.
to-
I think the discussions are great. These discussions, the discussion that she put on the table right now is drawing thousands of views to MuggleNet, and listeners will be flocking to this show to hear what we, as quote unquote the fandom, has to say about this whole thing. So it's drawing attention. It's great. It's wonderful.
It
for
just
the fans.
continues
Like
to
I said,
baffle
it's
me.
publicity.
But it
Didn't
can- Yeah.
Oh, who was it? Noah like tweeted about it or something, and it was picked up by CNN.
It was, yeah. This it was picked up just yesterday, I think, by CNN. In another misleading headline too, from CNN. So, yeah.
It's still getting her name out there, and it's still getting the Potter name out
But
there.
does
though,
she
so
really-
people are
does she
coming
really
back
need
to
that?
And she
No,
doesn't.
I don't.
no,
I
she
don't
doesn't
think that
need
was.
that.
I don't think it was a stunt.
Yeah.
Whoever.
No, I don't
gave-
think it was, but it that's kind of what happened too. I mean,
Well,
any
yeah.
publicity. There's no bad publicity, if I can say that word.
Yeah.
It just continues to baffle me. Some of the things that J.K. Rowling comes out with afterwards, it's just like, oh, they probably didn't have a very happy marriage at all. In fact, the only reason I put them together is because I felt bad that I wanted to at first, right? And it's just like, oh, okay, should it have been different? Like, what are you saying? It's weird. It puts us in a weird position as fans to doubt the authenticity of the final product.
But I look at it the same way I look at when a filmmaker comes out and says, after they kind of adds an epilogue to their story, like at the end of this movie, they probably weren't very happy. They probably broke up a few years later. That doesn't matter though. It's just a little. I look at it and say, oh, that's interesting. But then I move on because the movie is there to see, and that's the end of the movie. There's nothing else. I'm not going to sit there and think of the movie. This happened at the end, and it ruins the whole movie for me, and everything's destroyed because of what the filmmaker said. It's just it doesn't affect it.
I mean, you invest a lot less time into watching a movie than you do into reading 7 books over the course of, 10 years. But I also think that a filmmaker saying something like that after the movie is released would also need to shut up in that case because, you told a story or you told part of this was what was happening at this point in time between these people. You shut the book, the story is done, let people use their imaginations for what happens next.
But why does it kill the imagination, though? It's just her opinion on what happens. It's not an authoritative, this is exactly what's going to happen.
It kills our imaginations because she is the person that created the whole thing in the first place. So for her to say that is the definitive thing that she is saying. So it's like whatever we could have imagined can't possibly be right because she created it. It's her character. She knows them better than anybody else.
Since when does imagination rely on authority? Who cares? And all the fan fiction, Harry and Draco were never gay, but there's still plenty of Harry and Draco fan fiction. What is it? How does it limit creativity and limit the imagination? I don't understand that.
So what happens whenever you create a story in a world that's so complex it's everybody's imagination can run wild, and apparently hers is because Harry's swimming around in her head so much right now. I'm sure this world is swimming around in her head because she is writing about it still. She's writing about it on Pottermore. She's writing about it with the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them script.
It's funny, Terrence, your illusion there. I just thought of Harry with gillyweed swimming in her head.
I was thinking about that too.
just chilling,
I know. So, it's constantly with her. And, she's thinking about a couple of things because maybe she was in a rush to write these books. I mean, she was under an extreme amount of pressure that, hindsight right now, certain things don't look too bad. And this is just one of those things.
Well, too bad. She already wrote it. It's already done. I mean,
she is allowed to talk about it, though.
She's allowed to talk about it, but if she wants to drop a bombshell like that, I think that she needs to write some kind of sequel or an epilogue book or something, or she needs to write something else, not just say things haphazardly and, throw people for a loop. And I think that just sucks. I do agree that I don't think that Ron and Hermione should have been together. I agree with that. I never saw them together as a couple, but I just don't agree with what she's doing.
Can I interject but I don't see it. Oh yeah, go ahead.
There was a web chat or a chat that Rowling did when she outed Dumbledore at the New York event. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
In that segment that she was doing, she also gave a very definitive answer about Ron and Hermione. It says fans might think that there's even more reason why Hermione should end up with Harry, but Rowling said she always knew that Ron and Hermione were meant to be together, just as she thought Harry and Ginny were meant to be together. I thought it was obvious, but apparently there are internet wars about this, she said, and they get very vicious.
Right.
I mean, she said it right there in that chat that they were supposed to be together, so this should just end it.
It's a woman's prerogative to change her mind.
And she will take that prerogative with her every single day and change her mind constantly until the grave. But the point is that J.K. Rowling wrote these books. She wrote what she was feeling would happen in the story in this world that she created at that point in her life, and she closed that chapter, so she should just leave that chapter as is.
Well, she talks about
You know,
maybe
she could
them
change
like
her mind once a year, every year, and release an interview saying something that she completely wanted to change in the books, and then at the end, you know, everything would be completely unrecognizable. But should she do so just because she's the one who wrote it, so she has the right to change it whenever she
How is
wants
it
and say
unrecognizable?
whatever she wants?
Someone reading the book is not going to read J.K. Rowling's interview as a footnote to the book. It's
Right.
just the book.
And again,
it doesn't matter.
Oh my
we can have, you know, dissertations and discussions all we want about what she says post facto, but the fact is, you know, what's in the books is the way it is. Fans have to realize that that's how it's supposed to be. What she says truly is interesting, but doesn't matter.
Mhm.
It doesn't change the way we read the books. When I read the books the first time, I had Ron and Hermione together. And I think everybody who has read it the first time has put those two together.
Well, it annoys me. That's where all this like rage is coming from because she said in that statement that you read, Keith, that you know, it was obvious that Harry and Ginny, and like to me it totally was, because that's the happiest ending, because that way everybody is a Weasley.
Well, I mean, she did that. Even I talked to my mom about this, and she goes, you know, the only reason that she really did this was because they're all family now.
Like legitimate family.
Yeah,
they're not
legitimate
just spending
family,
the
right.
summers at their house or anything. They actually are part of the family now.
And that
So
kind
they
of
wife swap?
that would be sick.
Sister wives.
Says my loving husband.
Oh gosh.
There's a comment from Ron, username Ron on MuggleNet on the article right now, and they write, I always thought from the very beginning that Hermione and Harry were meant to be together. They just fit. Their intelligence, their names, everything. I never understood how you went from a natural attraction to such a drastic, unnatural change. I always thought Ron would fall in love with someone else from school. Jenny would be with someone who is way sportier and great looking. And Harry, apparently Harry isn't sporty or great looking. Harry and Hermione would have a great love life, teasing each other, but always being there for each other. I never saw Ron and Hermione coming.
I don't think Harry and Hermione had that chemistry,
that person
honestly.
is wrong.
Yeah, I don't think that they had chemistry
really
at all.
Ron. People are like, here's the two things that I don't like about this whole statement here, just real quick. Okay, if in fact J.K. Rowling said Hermione should have been with Harry, which we don't know yet. This may be the biggest case of misquoting ever for our fandom. It's very possible. I think it's actually likely. But if she did say that Hermione should be with Harry or would be happier with Harry or something like that, I have a problem with it because I thought Harry and Ginny that's my one true pairing. That's like, I thought it was perfect. You know, they've both dealt with Voldemort very intimately, and I really think they're good together. So that was the first part that I really hated. The second part is that really, where does that leave Ron? He's just off. Ron is essentially unlikable, unmarriageable, unwettable. He can't keep a girlfriend, not even one who, you know, cares about him as much as Hermione did in canon in the books. So Ron just goes off and is some loser somewhere. And it's just like it promotes this Ron hate that I just can't get behind. Because it just means that there's nothing valuable at all in Ron's character. And it's possible that's how she wrote him. But it just really makes me say, well, you know, the movies screwed Ron out of all the good lines that he had in the books. And they turned him into comic relief, and he's kind of a joke. And now, so it's like, well, now he's even more of a joke, but this time on the book side.
Honestly, the only thing that I really liked about Ron anyway in the entire series, in the book series and movies, was his loyalty to Harry. And their friendship and things like that. And in book 4, you know, I was annoyed with him whenever they split up. He was a brat. Yeah, and he was a brat in book 7 as well.
At times he's selfish. At times
so is Harry though. Yeah,
well, and Harry is too. But it's just like, really, you're going to deprive Ron of the really one good thing that he had going for him, really?
Yeah.
Come on, Joe. Put a dagger through my heart.
Put a dagger through the fandom's heart. I had a couple of problems with that statement because, for one, how is Harry not sporty? He was the captain of the Quidditch team, and he even says in canon, in the books, something to the extent of, Quidditch is all I'm good at. Like, he was obviously sporty.
Well, Harry's kind of a pathetic character too, if you really want to get down to it. He's not really.
That's a matter. That is a matter of opinion, there, Eric.
No. I think nobody agrees that nobody thinks he's a great student. nobody thinks that he studied a whole lot and was actually decent in school, and nobody thinks he won by way beat Voldemort based on skill.
That definitely.
That's the hero's journey, though. He rises out of mediocrity to rise above and be the hero.
But that definitely
that's
does not.
another thing that annoys me with all this stuff is, she shows all these people getting killed. Like, so she shows the orphans in the war, and she shows, all that stuff. But then our main hero doesn't die and then gets the girl. That doesn't make sense to me.
I think that's the way that it is. I mean, the way that it should go.
Is that, Ron Weasley, who is 90% of our fandom, it's that, that person that just wants to be loved by somebody, gets the right girl, gets the girl with all the brains, gets the hero line of the story. Good for him. Quit giving it to the hero of the story. Give it to the sidekick.
Then make
That's definitely a cliched ending, yeah.
But I gotta say, is Hermione the girl for Ron? Because, they're just... honestly, Hermione challenges him, but you need a really strong backbone to take that kind of challenge every single day. And would Ron be happy in the rest of his life being challenged every single day by someone who is better at him in almost everything? How emasculating would that be?
Mary,
how did they even have kids?
Mary, did we talk about this on a previous episode? Because I seem to remember this discussion and your opinions on it. I liked it. Like, we actually had a talk.
Remember.
Somebody somewhere we talked about whether or not Ron and Hermione would be happy, but it's okay when we entertain.
Sound like me, though.
It's okay when we entertain the idea on our own independently, but for J.K. Rowling to entertain the idea, that crosses a line.
Yeah, it does. Because I have another one from the National Press Club luncheon, a chat with J.K. Rowling in October of 1999. That's about the same time that MuggleNet started.
That's way too soon. They're 13 years old, and she's talking about their relationship.
Yes. I think you guys seem to be saying, though, that it's okay for her to give her opinion when it agrees with your opinion, but when she disagrees and diverts from the book, it's okay. She's not okay. She should keep her mouth shut.
Hang on.
That's exactly right.
Here's the quote. Harry and Hermione are very platonic friends, but I won't answer for anyone else. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Come on, JK.
Keith, this is why you're on this episode.
I know, but like I said, even though she's saying all these things early on, and then she said that the one that we read earlier at the Dumbledore's gay revelation, Harry is
sounds like
sorry, awesome. Harry's world. She wrote the series very fast. Granted, it was very thought out, but I just feel like, we're going to hear a lot more of these kind of announcements and these kind of changes, I think. Because
I don't mind the announcements. I just can't stand when there's fake journalism creating havoc amongst the fans. That's what I don't like.
Right, when stuff is being reported that's not being said.
Look, that's always going to be the case. Maybe not with us over at MuggleNet, because we're very careful about that, and we're very sensitive to our audience. I had about
5 emails from different fans saying, "Hey, it's out there on the web," and I'm like, "Yeah, but you know what? I'm not reading it this way."
Right.
And I could not justify running to the press to put it up like that because it just didn't make sense.
Well, and the Sunday Times really is still to blame, though. That's where everybody.
Oh, I agree.
The Sunday Times, and they sensationalize. They don't have the quotes to back up their claims. And so how is anyone else meant to?
Exactly.
And the damn Wonderland isn't even out for another 2 days. And so it really is just the worst experience, really. If you're trying to keep a lid on something, or if you're trying to contain all the implications, or even if you're trying to understand what she actually said, you can't, because it's not published yet. Yeah,
well, everyone's going to go buy it, though.
Well, yeah. That was a major plug for this publication. But
I've never even heard of this magazine before.
Going back to what you said, Keith. That's the way that we kind of do things over at MuggleNet with the news. Is that we sat there and we discussed this article. While it was posted out there, we wanted to make sure that we had the right information before anything was posted. And we sat there in a discussion, and we had a discussion in a thread before the news was posted, just to make sure that everything was kosher and everything was matched up, and how we were going to word it was not going to be dishonest in any kind of way.
Well, I think it was just like the tweets that we put out when the article was done. don't let the Skeeterish titles, affect your opinion of this
Right.
thing. Read the facts.
So let's read a couple of tweets from some of our listeners on Twitter. We did get a massive response about this, so thank you very much if you responded. And we're sorry if we can't get to everybody here, but Roxy stated that Ron and Hermione's relationship was such a journey for me. I shipped them for 10 years, and to say I'm angry is an understatement. And that's true. I mean, you have angry people out there. You have people that are pissed off right now about this. Because it's something that they feel is being taken away, something that they've grown to love and accept.
It's not, though.
I know.
So why are they pissed off? I mean, if they're pissed off that she's, trying to mess with people's mind about the canon, okay, but why are you pissed off? She didn't actually pair them up.
Well,
I don't get it.
We'll find out. Sarah Malfoy says, I was really shocked when I found out. I so ship Hermione. I don't think Harmony would have worked.
Hermione.
Well, no. It's shipping Harry and Hermione.
Ship names are like the third worst thing that's ever happened to fandom anywhere. I don't care what ship name it is. It's stupid.
Dreary.
Especially the Hunger Games ship name.
What is it?
Peeta and Katniss.
I mean,
That was it.
sorry.
Suzanne Collins really should have rethought those names.
That's the title of the episode. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Couple more responses from Twitter. Shinta Surya says, I thought that the whole story of Harry and Hermione was perfect. I totally shipped them. They belong together. Christine London says, I immediately was able to see that maybe Ron and Hermione could be divorce material. Then I looked into it more and I started bawling. Leasis Walker stated, I think she should leave well enough alone. We don't need an explanation to everything. We need to use our imaginations too, which is something that we
Very well
that
said.
we
Why
discussed.
why does that kill imagination? Because she is giving her imaginative opinion. You can still have your own. Again, she never said that the squid. She never said that the squid would have sex with the Hogwarts castle because it's an anthropomorphic being. So why is it now?
But that's fan fiction. It's written by the fans, But when it's written by the writer who created the whole damn thing, you got to think, hey, there's a little bit more substance there than something that a fan is going to make up.
Yep.
Okay, but since 2007, as I said before, she is the head fanfic writer.
Yeah. I don't understand though. Okay, again, you're saying that it kills the imagination, but she is not saying anything definitively. Nothing has changed in the book, so everything you have to go off of is still the stuff you have to go off of before. So what does it matter? How does it kill the imagination?
Eric, you got to run.
God, bye everybody. It was wonderful talking with you.
Well,
and
ciao, Eric.
We'll talk to you later.
Hermione.
Good
Romani.
discussion. Good discussion.
Romaine noodles all the way.
That was fun. I like arguing with Eric. It's great.
Yeah, it's fun.
Bye, Eric.
Bye.
Hi, Eric. Take care.
He's already
Say
gone.
hi to Gina for us.
He's already gone.
He's already gone. Apparently there's people are having very different, very mixed opinions on this story, and hey, we're gonna have to see what comes out in this Wonderland article. I'm very interested to see this little discussion with Emma Watson and J.K. Rowling. You're not going to go out and grab the issue?
No, not at all. I don't care. Again, I have
You
the
can get
books.
this in the U.S. Isn't it a UK magazine?
I don't know,
Just
but
gonna
I
have
have
to
the
find it
books right in front
online.
of me.
Yeah, it's going to be on e-print or something like that. You're going to have to pick it up on.
It doesn't
iTunes.
affect me in any way. So I don't know why.
But you and Mary are the
Why
Ron
are you
and
on
Hermione
this episode?
No, I mean,
you in any way.
because I'm trying to help you guys cope through this because I don't understand why you're so upset about it.
We're going through the 7 stages right now. I mean, there's
Yeah.
We need
denial and
podcast
anger.
counseling.
Yeah, we're just stuck on anger, so I'm trying to get you guys past that one, but you guys won't move past it. So I'm not a very good therapist, I guess.
Listen,
Kind of.
authors are vicarious people. They have strange minds, okay? We have to accept that of authors and that they're going to be able to change their minds and add things later on, whether they like it or not. That doesn't mean that we change the story. It just means that they have their opinions. They're entitled to them. It's their characters. But we don't have to buy into it. It's not the canon.
So Keith, I think I kind of see what you're saying there. I mean, it's whatever's in print, and I mean the 7 books are out and over with. Whatever's in print right then and there, that's all canon. But I can also see the spin with the new media, as Eric was saying. With
well, here's a good point. Okay, we all know Captain Kirk from Star Trek, right?
Right.
Okay, well, nowhere in the book series or in the original series or anywhere that is his name James Tiberius Kirk. Okay, it's
really
Captain James Kirk. Tiberius was added in the animated series that nobody liked, but because they added it there, some fans think of it as canon. But is it? I don't know. Some people think Captain Kirk is really a balding man and wears a hairpiece. But is it just because William Shatner was balding and wearing a hairpiece? So, you have to really divulge what is canon and what isn't canon when you're talking about a series.
Well, wasn't the animated series of Star Trek?
Terrible.
I know it was awful, but wasn't that approved by Gene Roddenberry?
Yes.
So wouldn't anything that happens within that be considered canon?
No, and I'll tell you why. Because later on in his life, he stated that his works were a basis for secular humanism, and he showcases all kinds of humanist lessons in the works. So just because he went all nutso at the end doesn't mean anything that he wrote past the original is authentic, in my opinion.
Okay.
Again, this is where it comes down to where do you draw the line? And that's my whole point on this. When we talk about the school books and Tales of Beetle the Bard and, the EA cards and Daily Prophets that she wrote in 1999 and 2000. They're excellent reads, by the way. If anybody's never seen them, they're pretty cool. They're hard to find. But where do we draw the line and say this is not canon anymore? So for me, I make it real simple. It's the 7-book series. That's it. Anything else above and beyond that is all great, and I can write all kinds of thesis papers and get my doctorates on lessons that she's written. But it doesn't mean it's canon.
So I guess
I'm going to take up Eric's side here and kind of sort of disagree with you.
That's so fine. You can. I'm right. But okay.
No.
I guess
Keith, you are not right all the time. You're a very smart guy, but I don't think you're entirely correct in this case.
Well, I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinion with this, and it's just like everybody is entitled to their opinion of where they think this line should be drawn, because it's not stated anywhere. Hell, even the church is
that's what canon was named after.
Exactly.
Was the bull of measure.
Exactly. Even the church doesn't draw the line, and that's why they have these different kind of denominations within that. But I can't get into that on this episode because we're out of time this week for this discussion. But if we want to hear your thoughts, we definitely are interested in hearing what you have to say about this. Shoot us an email, staff@hogwartsradio.com. I'm sure we're going to be talking about this on this week's episode of our podcast. Yes, we're still continuing on with our weekly episodes. This is just a special episode of our show. So it's additional bonus that you're getting. And we want to hear...
How lucky you are.
I know. we definitely want to hear your reactions to this big news here. I want to go ahead and thank Keith for being on. Keith, it's a pleasure, buddy.
All right. Well, thank you very much for having me, Terrence. And guys, it's great talking to you guys as always. Miss y'all.
Yeah.
Likewise.
Yeah. And,
cheers.
We're gonna have Keith on a little bit more often, because I do think that you add this kind of dynamic, you add this kind of disturbance to the force in that sense. So sorry, I don't know. I'm getting delusional here. It's getting late, but hey, we want to invite everybody to subscribe, rate, and review the show on iTunes. Be sure to follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and all that other stuff. Apologies to Ron and Hermione, but we are out of time this week. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I'm Terrence Pinkston.
I'm a sad Broncos fan.
I'm Mary Smith.
I'm Marissa Reynolds.
I'm Adam Bromberg.
And from MuggleNet.com, I'm Keith Hawk.
And we will see everybody next time for episode 154 of Hogwarts Radio. Bye-bye, everybody.
Peace.
Bye.
That was bloody brilliant.
Codswallop.